Marcus Hayes, a seasoned Navy SEAL handler, stood at the edge of the rocky coastline of Seabrook, his gaze locked on the turbulent sea stretching before him. The wind whipped through his dark hair, carrying with it the heavy scent of salt and the distant rumble of thunder. The sky above was a canvas of swirling gray clouds, signaling the approach of a fierce storm that the small coastal town had only seen once every decade. Despite the looming tempest, Marcus felt a quiet resolve settle within him. This was home, and he'd face whatever came with steady hands and a clear mind. Beside him, Rex, his loyal canine partner, sat alert and poised. The bond between man and dog was evident in the way Rex's amber eyes met Marcus's, a silent conversation passing between them. Years of shared missions, grueling training sessions, and moments of quiet companionship had forged their connection into something unbreakable. Rex wasn't just a trained SEAL dog. He was Marcus's constant in a world of uncertainty, a tether to the calm beneath the storm. Before we continue, make sure to like and subscribe to never miss a new video. And tell me, where are you watching this video from? I love seeing all different people come together for these stories. Seabrook was a town caught between two worlds. On one side, the bustling harbor where fishermen prepared their boats for the early morning catch. On the other, the weather-beaten cliffs that jutted out into the churning ocean. The houses clustered along the shoreline bore the marks of countless storms, faded paint, salt-crusted windows, and the occasional boarded-up doorway. Locals moved with an easy familiarity, their lives intertwined with the rhythms of the sea and sky. Marcus had returned here after years away, seeking a brief respite from the relentless demands of his last deployment. The quiet town promised solitude, the kind that allowed a man to breathe without the constant weight of danger pressing down on him. But even as he watched the first heavy drops of rain begin to fall, he sensed that this storm would bring more than just weather. It would stir memories and test bonds he thought were untouchable. Rex shifted, ears twitching toward the howl of the wind as it swept through the narrow streets. Marcus reached down to ruffle the dog's sleek black fur, feeling the familiar roughness beneath his fingers. "Ready, boy?" he asked softly, knowing that Rex was always ready for whatever came next. The dog's low growl was an affirmation of their shared purpose, a reminder that no matter the storm outside, they faced it together. The storm was gathering strength now, the sky darkening to an ominous charcoal. Seabrook's residents hurried indoors, shutters banging against windows, porch lights flickering on as the first flashes of lightning split the sky. Marcus pulled his jacket tighter, the fabric stiff with moisture, and glanced down at Rex, who was already tense, muscles coiled like springs. The dog's instincts were razor-sharp, honed by countless hours on missions that demanded trust and precision. They had trained for moments like this, unpredictable, dangerous, and unforgiving. But here, on the edge of a sleepy town bracing for nature's fury, the challenge was different. It was no longer just about tactical precision. It was about survival, about the tenuous thread that connected man, dog, and the elements. Marcus's mind drifted briefly to the past deployments. The nights spent navigating hostile terrain, the adrenaline-fueled rescues, the silent communication with Rex that had saved lives more than once. Those memories were a tapestry of triumph and loss, woven together by the unyielding loyalty of his four-legged partner. Rex had been more than a dog. He was a guardian, a confidant, and the steady heartbeat beside him in the chaos. As the wind picked up, carrying with it the sharp tang of rain and sea spray, Marcus scanned the horizon. The storm was no longer a distant threat. It was here, its presence undeniable, in the way the waves crashed against the jagged rocks and the trees bent beneath the gale. The town's vulnerability was laid bare, a fragile line drawn between safety and devastation. Yet amid the growing turmoil, Marcus found a strange sense of peace. This was the life he had chosen, the path that demanded resilience and courage. And with Rex by his side, he was ready to face whatever the storm would bring. The bond between them was more than training or duty. It was a partnership forged in the crucible of adversity. Together, they would navigate the coming tempest, their spirits intertwined like the roots of the ancient pines that clung to the cliffs above. Marcus took a deep breath, the crisp air filling his lungs, and tightened his grip on Rex's leash. The dog's eyes shone with fierce intelligence, reflecting the storm's wild energy. This was their moment, a test of loyalty, strength, and trust. As the first full blast of wind swept through Seabrook, rattling doors and sending shutters clanging, Marcus and Rex moved forward, stepping into the heart of the storm, ready to face the unknown. The storm unleashed its fury without warning, rain lashing down in sheets as wind roared through the twisting streets of Seabrook. Marcus tightened his grip on Rex's leash, muscles tense as the dog's ears flicked back against the tempest. The world around them blurred into a furious dance of water and shadow, the familiar contours of the town swallowed beneath a curtain of gray. Yet even as the elements raged, Marcus's focus narrowed to the bond beside him. Rex, his steadfast partner, ever alert to the slightest shift in the chaos. But then, with a sudden jolt, Rex's body stiffened. His head whipped toward a narrow alleyway, the fur along his spine bristling beneath Marcus's hand. Without a sound, the dog lunged forward, breaking free from the handler's grasp and vanishing into the curtain of rain. "Rex!" Marcus shouted, heart pounding. But the dog was already gone, swallowed by the storm's relentless embrace. Panic surged through Marcus as he sprinted after his partner, boots slipping on the slick pavement. The howling wind tore at his jacket, the rain stinging his face like 1,000 icy needles. He pushed through the storm's fury, eyes straining to catch any glimpse of the black form darting ahead. But Rex was a shadow now, a flash of movement lost in the tempest. The town's streets, usually so familiar, transformed into a maze of treacherous obstacles. Floodwaters surged in gutters and low spots, turning sidewalks into rivers that threatened to sweep him away. Trees groaned under the force of the wind, some snapping with a crack that echoed like gunfire. The power had flickered moments before, plunging Seabrook into darkness, interrupted only by flashes of lightning that illuminated the chaos in brief, stark bursts. Marcus's mind raced. Rex had never bolted like this, never abandoned his side without cause. The dog's instincts were razor-sharp, attuned to dangers beyond human perception. Something was wrong. Something was out there, hidden beneath the storm's veil, and Rex had sensed it. He slowed, scanning the flooded street ahead, heart pounding not just from exertion, but from a rising tide of fear. The storm was isolating him, cutting off routes and drowning familiar landmarks beneath water and wind. Every second lost increased the risk, not just to Rex, but to the town itself. "Rex!" The cry tore from Marcus's throat again, desperate and raw. His voice was swallowed immediately by the gale, fading into the cacophony of rain and thunder. He moved with purpose, following faint paw prints left in the muddy ground, tracks that wove through back alleys and narrow side streets. Locals had long warned Marcus about the dangers of the coastal storm season, the sudden torrents and flash floods that could turn peaceful streets into death traps. But no warning could prepare him for this. A frantic chase through a town under siege by nature, the very ground shifting beneath his feet. As he rounded a corner, Marcus caught sight of a figure huddled under the skeletal frame of a broken bus shelter, rain streaming down like a waterfall from its fractured roof. A young woman, soaked through, eyes wide with fear as she clutched a drenched jacket around her shoulders. She looked up as Marcus approached, voice trembling. "Have you seen a dog? A black German shepherd?" He ran off down the hill just before the floodwaters rose. Marcus nodded, breath ragged. "Yes, that's Rex. He's my partner." He glanced uphill, where the storm had carved new rivers through the streets, turning slopes into rushing torrents. He ran into the storm. "I'm trying to find him." The woman's eyes flicked toward the raging elements, then back to Marcus. "You're braver than most to be out here. The flood's getting worse. People are starting to evacuate." She hesitated, then added, "Be careful. This storm isn't just bad, it's dangerous." Marcus gave a grim nod, the weight of responsibility settling heavy in his chest. Rex was more than a dog. He was a symbol of hope, a crucial link in the chain of lives that depended on sharp instincts and quick action. Losing him now would mean more than personal heartbreak. It could mean disaster. He continued down the hill, eyes sharp for any sign of movement. The storm's howling seemed to grow louder, as if mocking his futile search. Water rushed past his boots in icy currents, tugging at his balance. The sky cracked with lightning, illuminating a narrow alley where Rex had last been seen disappearing. Marcus's breath came in ragged bursts as he pushed forward, fatigue creeping in. But his resolve hardened with every step. He called out again, voice raw but unwavering. "Rex, come back!" Suddenly, a flash of black darted through a flicker of lightning. There. Marcus lunged forward, reaching out, but Rex slipped away, weaving expertly through debris and puddles. The dog's keen senses guided him through the storm's chaos, but the danger grew with every passing moment. As Marcus pursued, memories flashed unbidden. Missions in distant lands where darkness and danger were constant companions, where Rex's unerring instincts had saved lives more than once. The dog's training went beyond the physical. It was a connection of mind and soul, a shared heartbeat that transcended words. Now, that connection was tested in the raw fury of nature. Marcus's fear was tempered by trust, a belief that Rex had a purpose, a reason for disappearing into the storm. But the unknown loomed large, the threat unseen yet palpable in the charged air. He pressed on, the storm swallowing his shouts, the rain blurring the edges of the world. The town of Seabrook was no longer a refuge, but a battleground between man, dog, and the relentless elements. And Marcus knew that finding Rex was more than a race against time. It was a fight for survival in a storm that showed no mercy. The storm's relentless fury showed no signs of abating as Marcus pushed deeper into the heart of Seabrook's battered streets. Rain hammered down in sheets, turning every surface slick and treacherous, while wind tore through the narrow alleyways like a living beast. Yet Marcus's focus sharpened, each step deliberate as he followed the faint, muddied paw prints Rex had left behind. Those tracks, scarcely visible amid the floodwaters and debris, were the fragile thread tethering him to his partner, guiding him through the chaos. Navigating the flooded terrain was a test of endurance and will. Water swirled around his boots, icy and unforgiving, forcing him to pick his path carefully to avoid the deeper pools that threatened to pull him under. The storm had transformed familiar streets into a labyrinth of rushing currents and fallen branches. A toppled street lamp dangled precariously from its wiring, sparking occasionally in the downpour. Every step required vigilance, every breath drawn against the wind's howl, a battle in itself. Marcus paused briefly to catch his breath beneath the skeletal remains of a weather-beaten awning, the thunder rolling overhead, like distant artillery. His gaze swept over the damage, the shattered windows of the town's small shops, the twisted metal of a crushed mailbox, the waterlogged pavement slick with mud and leaves. Seabrook was a town under siege, its quiet charm swallowed by the storm's wrath. Yet even in the fury, Marcus found fragments of humanity. A group of locals huddled beneath a battered awning, faces etched with concern as they clutched umbrellas turned inside out by the wind. One man, his raincoat soaked through, called out as Marcus approached. "You looking for the dog? The black shepherd? We saw him dart past a flooded park a few blocks up. Reckon he's trying to find shelter." Marcus nodded, gratitude mingling with urgency. "Thanks. I'm headed that way." His voice was hoarse from shouting against the storm. But the connection to the community sparked a flicker of hope amid the tempest. Pressing on, Marcus veered toward the park, a low-lying area now transformed into a swirling basin of water. Trees groaned under the wind's assault, branches whipping wildly as leaves were torn free and scattered like confetti in a storm parade. The path was nearly invisible beneath the flood, but the paw prints persisted, faint yet unmistakable. As he waded through the knee-deep water, Marcus's thoughts drifted to the countless missions he and Rex had undertaken. Each operation had forged their bond stronger. Rex's instincts had often been the difference between success and disaster. The dog's ability to sense danger before it arrived was legendary among their unit, a gift born of experience and an unshakable loyalty. Now, those instincts were their only guide through the storm's chaos. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught Marcus's eye, a shadow darting between the trees. He called out, voice cutting through the thunder, "Rex, over here!" The dog emerged from the darkness, soaked but determined, eyes bright with purpose. Relief surged through Marcus as he closed the distance, dropping to his knees to gather Rex into a tight embrace. "Good boy," he murmured, fingers tracing the wet fur along Rex's neck. But the moment of calm was fleeting. Rex's ears twitched, his body trembling not from cold but from alertness. The dog pulled slightly against the leash, nose to the ground, tail stiff as he caught a scent carried on the storm's breath. Marcus followed Rex's lead, heart pounding anew. The dog's path led along the edge of the park, weaving through flooded underbrush toward a cluster of twisted trees. The air was thick with tension as the wind carried the distant sound of rushing water. Not just rain runoff, but something deeper, more ominous. Ahead, water cascaded over a low ridge, pooling into a swollen creek that had breached its banks. Marcus's eyes widened as he spotted a faint figure struggling against the current. A woman clinging to a partially submerged branch, her face pale and eyes wide with terror. The storm had trapped her in the rising floodwaters, her strength fading with each desperate attempt to stay afloat. Without hesitation, Marcus dropped his pack and waded into the icy torrent, the water biting through his clothes as he fought the current. "Hold on," he shouted, edging closer. Rex stood at the shore, barking sharply, urging Marcus forward. Reaching the woman, Marcus grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the bank with all his strength. The water clawed at his legs, threatening to drag them both under, but his grip was unyielding. Together they staggered onto dry ground, gasping for breath as the storm continued its relentless assault. The woman, trembling and soaked to the bone, clutched Marcus's arm. "Thank you," she whispered, voice shaking. "I didn't think anyone would find me." Marcus offered a reassuring nod. "You're safe now. We need to get you somewhere warm." Rex circled them, tail wagging tentatively, as if sensing the shift from danger to hope. Marcus glanced back toward the town, where the storm's fury still raged, and realized the rescue was far from over. There were others out there, vulnerable and stranded. He helped the woman to her feet, wrapping his jacket around her shivering frame. The dog's keen nose twitched as he scanned the surroundings, ears perked for any sign of distress. Together, the trio began the arduous trek back toward the center of town. Marcus's mind raced with strategies, recalling the training that had prepared him for moments like this. How to navigate floodwaters, how to prioritize rescues, how to stay calm when chaos threatened to overwhelm. The storm had turned Seabrook into a battlefield, but Marcus and Rex were fighters born of resilience and loyalty. Each step forward was a promise. To the people trapped by the flood, to the town that had welcomed him home, and to the bond that tethered man and dog against the odds. As they moved through the storm's relentless grip, Marcus felt a renewed determination settle over him. Finding Rex had started as a desperate search, but now it had become a mission to save lives, a test of endurance and heart. The rain battered down, the wind screamed through the trees, but Marcus's resolve was unwavering. With Rex by his side and the woman leaning on him for support, he pushed onward, ready to face whatever the storm would throw next. As Marcus helped the trembling woman to a sheltered doorway, the storm's relentless howl pressed in on all sides, a reminder that the danger far from over. Yet in this brief moment of reprieve, his mind drifted back to the countless missions that had shaped the bond between him and Rex. A bond that transcended mere training and duty. Rex wasn't just a trained Navy SEAL dog. He was a partner who had saved him more times than Marcus could count. The dog's senses were finely tuned, capable of detecting threats long before any human could. On deployments in hostile territories, Rex had been Marcus's eyes and ears in the darkness. There were missions where the dog's sudden alertness had prevented ambushes, where his unyielding loyalty had pulled Marcus from the brink of disaster. Marcus recalled one cold night in Afghanistan when a hidden IED threatened their convoy. Rex had frozen, his body rigid with tension, refusing to move forward. Trusting the dog's instincts, Marcus ordered the team to halt. Moments later, a distant explosion rocked the earth, confirming the dog's silent warning. That unspoken communication, the subtle glance, the shift of weight, had saved lives that night. Beyond the battlefield, Rex had been a steadfast companion through Marcus's own internal struggles. The years of combat had left scars not visible to the eye, memories that haunted restless nights. Rex's presence was a balm, a physical reminder that Marcus was not alone. The dog's warmth and unwavering focus helped him anchor himself in moments of darkness, pulling him back from the edge. Now, amidst the storm-lashed streets of Seabrook, those memories carried weight. Rex's sudden disappearance had shaken Marcus, but he understood there was more at play. The dog's instincts suggested a purpose beyond the immediate chaos, a reason for vanishing into the tempest. The woman Marcus had rescued sat shivering on the steps, wrapped in his jacket as he scanned the flooded street. Water pooled in deep channels, reflecting the fractured glow of street lamps flickering against the storm's assault. Despite the storm's fury, Marcus felt the familiar surge of determination, the same drive that had fueled countless operations. Rex sat alert by his side, nose twitching as he caught scents carried on the wind. The dog's eyes remained sharp, scanning the shadows with a focus that hinted at knowledge Marcus could not yet grasp. It was clear the dog was following a trail, one that might lead them to others in need, or perhaps to the source of the unfolding danger. Marcus pulled his jacket tighter against the rain, the cold seeping through his damp clothing. He glanced toward the horizon, where the storm churned relentlessly, and resolved to trust Rex's instincts. The dog's disappearance was no accident. It was a call to action. "Stay here," Marcus told the woman gently. "I'm going to find out where Rex is taking us." She nodded, gratitude and fear mingling in her eyes. Moving forward, Marcus followed Rex's lead through the flooded streets, the dog's paws splashing through puddles as he navigated the shifting terrain with uncanny precision. Each step was measured, every movement purposeful. The trail took them past overturned trash bins and scattered debris, signs of the storm's growing wrath. As they pressed deeper into the town's outskirts, Marcus caught glimpses of the natural world battling for dominance. The swollen river that skirted Seabrook's edge had breached its banks, sending muddy water rushing over embankments and onto roads. Trees bent low under the wind's assault, some snapping with a sharp crack that echoed like gunfire. The storm's wild energy was a stark contrast to the quiet moments Marcus and Rex had shared during training. Days when the dog would rest his head on Marcus's knee, eyes calm and trusting. That calm was a precious counterpoint to the chaos now unfolding. Suddenly, Rex halted, ears perked and body rigid. Marcus crouched beside him, heart hammering. The dog's nose twitched in the damp air, catching something invisible to human senses. Marcus's breath fogged in the chill, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the darkened street ahead. From the shadows emerged a faint figure, stumbling and soaked to the bone. Marcus called out, "Hey, over here!" The figure turned, revealing a young man with a face etched in exhaustion and fear. "I got separated from my family," the man gasped, voice trembling. "The floodwaters rose too fast. I don't know where they are." Marcus nodded, extending a steadying hand. "We'll find them," he promised, the weight of responsibility settling heavy on his shoulders. Rex responded with a low, reassuring growl, tail wagging slightly as if sensing the urgency. Together, they moved through the storm's fury, the trio navigating the flooded streets with cautious determination. Marcus's military training guided his steps. How to move through water without losing balance, how to listen for subtle sounds amid the roaring wind. He remained vigilant, eyes scanning for hazards and signs of others trapped in the flood's grasp. As they pressed on, Marcus thought of the lives hanging in the balance, the community battered by forces beyond their control. His PTSD, the sleepless nights, the memories of distant wars, they all paled against the immediate need to protect and rescue. Rex, ever the sentinel, led them toward a cluster of houses partially submerged in water. The dog's keen senses had detected something critical. Marcus trusted that instinct without question. Suddenly, from a nearby doorway, a faint cry pierced the storm's roar, a child's voice, fragile and scared. Marcus's heart clenched. "That way," he shouted, breaking into a run with the young man close behind. Rex surged ahead, barking sharply as they neared the source. In the doorway, a small boy clung to his mother, both soaked and shivering, but alive. Relief flooded Marcus, but there was no time to linger. He ushered them toward higher ground, the storm pressing in, relentless and unforgiving. With every rescue, Marcus felt the familiar weight of duty and the unspoken bond that had carried him through battles abroad and within. Rex was more than a dog. He was the embodiment of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest storms, instinct and loyalty could light the way. As the wind howled and rain battered the town, Marcus knew this was only the beginning. The storm had revealed a deeper challenge, one that would test the limits of their resilience and the strength of their bond. And with Rex leading the way, Marcus was ready to face it head on. The rain hammered down without mercy, turning the streets of Seabrook into rivers of rushing water and debris. Marcus's boots splashed through the floodwaters as he followed Rex's lead, the dog's nose pressed low to the ground, eyes sharp and alert. Each step forward was a battle against the storm's fury. But Marcus welcomed the focus it brought, the kind of clarity that only came when survival hung in the balance. As they moved through the battered town, a sudden shout cut through the wind. Marcus spun, spotting a figure waving frantically near a collapsed fence. A woman, soaked to the bone, her face streaked with mud and tears, ran toward them. "Please, you have to help. My brother's trapped in the old mill. He can't get out." Her voice was raw with panic, carrying a desperate urgency. Marcus nodded, heart pounding. "Lead the way," he said, gripping Rex's leash tighter. The dog responded instantly, tail stiffening as if sensing the urgency in the woman's voice. The old mill sat on the edge of Seabrook, a crumbling relic from decades past, its wooden beams groaning under the storm's assault. Normally a quiet landmark, it now loomed like a fortress besieged by rising floodwaters that churned dangerously close to its foundations. Marcus knew the terrain well. Years ago, it had been a training ground for local rescue teams. Now, it was a trap. The woman, who introduced herself as Emma, moved swiftly through the flooded streets, her familiarity with the town evident even in the chaos. "The storm's worse than anything I've seen," she said between gasps for breath. "The river's flooded and the mill's basement flooded fast. My brother Jake got trapped when the water rose." Marcus's mind shifted gears as they approached the mill. He'd been trained for scenarios like this. Natural disasters where every second counted, where planning and quick thinking could mean the difference between life and death. But the storm was relentless, the floodwaters rising with a speed that defied logic. "We need to move carefully," Marcus said, scanning the swollen river that now lapped at the edge of the mill's porch. "Rex, stay close." The dog's ears flicked in acknowledgement, muscles coiled and ready. As they neared the mill's entrance, a low groan echoed through the wind, the building straining against the elements. Marcus's eyes caught sight of a submerged set of stairs, leading down into darkness, half hidden beneath the rising water. The basement was a potential death trap. A small misstep could plunge them into icy depths. Emma hesitated. "Jake's down there," she whispered. "He's weak, but he's alive." Marcus nodded, steeling himself. "We're going in." He pulled a flashlight from his jacket, the beam cutting through the murky gloom as he descended the stairs, water swirling around his calves. Rex followed silently, the dog's presence a comfort amid the cold and darkness. Below the basement was a flooded maze of old machinery and broken crates. Marcus's breath hitched, the cold seeping into his bones as he waded deeper. The sound of splashing echoed faintly. Jake was close. "Jake!" Marcus called, voice steady despite the chill. Suddenly, a figure emerged from behind a rusted support beam. A young man, soaked and shivering, but conscious. Relief flooded Marcus as he moved toward him. "I'm Marcus. We're here to get you out." Jake's eyes flickered with recognition and hope. I thought I was done for," he murmured, voice weak but determined. Marcus crouched beside him, checking for injuries. "We'll get you to safety. Just hold on." He glanced toward the stairs, calculating the safest route back. The water was rising fast, and time was slipping away. Outside, Emma kept watch, her gaze flicking nervously between the storm and the mill's entrance. The floodwaters churned, swallowing the steps that had once been their only exit. Marcus turned back to Jake. "Rex, help me here." The dog pressed close, nuzzling Jake's hand with reassuring warmth. Together, Marcus and Rex guided Jake through the flooded basement, careful to avoid submerged hazards. Each step was a test of balance and nerve, the water cold enough to numb fingers and toes. But the bond between man and dog was unshakable, a silent promise amid the storm's chaos. Finally, they reached the stairs. Marcus hoisted Jake up, supporting his weight as they ascended into the tempest's roar. Outside, the wind tore at their soaked clothes, the rain blinding in its intensity. Emma rushed forward, wrapping a blanket around Jake's shoulders. Marcus's eyes scanned the sky, lightning flashing like a warning. The storm was far from spent. But for now, they had one more life saved, a testament to resilience, training, and the fierce loyalty between a man and his dog. Emma's voice broke through the noise. "Thank you. You saved him." Marcus nodded, exhaustion gnawing at him, but overshadowed by purpose. "We're not done yet. There could be others." Rex barked softly, tail wagging, a spark of hope in the relentless storm. Together, they prepared to face whatever came next, united by determination and the unbreakable bond that had brought them this far. The storm showed no mercy as Marcus, Emma, Jake, and Rex made their way away from the old mill. The wind howling like a beast unleashed and rain pounding down in relentless torrents. The floodwaters had swallowed much of Seabrook's streets, turning familiar routes into hazardous waterways. Yet amidst the chaos, it was Rex who led the way, his keen nose and sharp instincts cutting through the storm's fury like a beacon. Marcus watched the dog move ahead, muscles taut and focused, navigating the flooded terrain with unwavering purpose. Rex's behavior had shifted subtly but unmistakably. The dog was no longer just searching. He was guiding them, purposefully pulling towards something unseen but urgent. The bond between handler and K9 was more than training. It was a language built on trust, intuition, and countless shared trials. As they pressed forward, Marcus's adrenaline surged anew. Each step was measured, every moment heavy with the knowledge that time was running out for others trapped by the flood. Emma stayed close, steadying Jake as they crossed treacherous patches of water. The young man's exhaustion was evident, but the rescue had rekindled a spark of hope in his eyes. The path took them toward a low-lying district on the outskirts of town, an area Marcus knew well but had never seen so utterly transformed. Streets were submerged beneath rushing water, cars abandoned and half-sunken. Trees had been toppled, and power lines sagged dangerously close to the ground. The storm's wrath had carved new rivers where there had been roads, and danger lurked beneath every ripple. Suddenly, Rex stopped, ears pricked and body rigid. Marcus reached out, gripping the dog's collar as the animal's gaze locked onto a narrow alleyway, partially hidden by fallen debris and water. The dog let out a sharp bark, a call that shattered the storm's din. Marcus peered into the darkness, heart pounding. The alley was nearly submerged, but faint cries pierced the air, voices muffled by the rain but unmistakably human. "Over here! Help!" a woman's voice called out, desperate and trembling. Without hesitation, Marcus waded into the floodwaters, water rising rapidly around his waist. Emma and Jake followed, struggling against the current as they moved toward the source of the cries. Rex led the way, slipping through narrow gaps with agility born of training and instinct. Rounding a corner, Marcus spotted a small group of townspeople trapped on the rooftop of a partially flooded building. A family of 4 clinging to the edge, faces pale and eyes wide with fear. The floodwaters roiled beneath them, swallowing the streets and threatening to engulf the structure entirely. "Hold on," Marcus shouted, urgency sharp in his voice. The family waved frantically, relief flickering in their eyes as they recognized the rescue. Marcus assessed the scene quickly. The rooftop was slick and unstable, and the rising water meant time was critical. He signaled to Emma and Jake to stay back, then turned to Rex. "We're going in." The dog's eyes burned with fierce determination as Marcus descended a narrow fire escape, careful to keep his footing on the wet metal. The wind screamed around him, rain stinging his face like needles. At the rooftop's edge, he reached out to the family, offering a steady hand. One by one, Marcus helped them climb down to safety, his grip firm and reassuring, despite the cold and exhaustion gripping his limbs. Rex stayed close, his presence a calming force amid the panic. as the last of the family was safely on solid ground. Marcus glanced back toward the storm. The danger was far from over. The floodwaters continued to rise, swallowing streets and homes, and the storm's fury showed no signs of relenting. Emma approached, her voice steady despite the ordeal. "There are more people out there, trapped, scared. We have to keep going." Marcus nodded, wiping rain from his eyes. "Rex is leading us for a reason. We follow." With renewed resolve, the group pressed onward, the dog's instincts guiding them through the storm's chaos. Each rescue was a testament to resilience and hope, a reminder that even in the harshest conditions, courage and loyalty could carve a path toward safety. As they moved deeper into the flooded district, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that Rex's actions hinted at something beyond the immediate rescues. The dog's behavior was purposeful, as if leading them toward a hidden truth or a larger danger lurking beneath the storm's relentless assault. The wind howled louder, carrying whispers of the unknown. But Marcus steeled himself. With Rex at his side and the lives they had saved behind them, he was ready to face whatever lay ahead. The storm's fury showed no signs of abating as Marcus, Rex, Emma, and Jake regrouped in the relative shelter of a battered community center on higher ground. The building's windows rattled under the relentless assault of wind and rain, and the floodwaters still lapped hungrily at its foundations. Inside, the air was thick with dampness and tension, but also a flicker of hope, a chance to plan their next move. Marcus wiped the rain from his face, muscles aching from hours of battling the storm and treacherous terrain. He glanced around at the small group of survivors huddled on the worn benches, their faces pale but grateful. Emma was already coordinating with local volunteers, her calm voice spreading instructions and gathering supplies. Despite the exhaustion pressing down on him, Marcus's mind raced. The storm had transformed Seabrook into a maze of hazards, and the floodwaters were rising steadily. Time was against them, and many were still trapped in the flooded lowlands. Rescue efforts needed to be swift, precise, and coordinated. Drawing on his military training, Marcus took charge of the situation. "We need to organize teams," he said firmly, voice cutting through the din. "Divide into search and rescue squads. Prioritize areas with the highest risk, those near the riverbanks and low-lying neighborhoods." He pointed to a rough map spread on a table, waterlogged but still legible. "We'll use radios to keep in contact. Emma, you coordinate with the volunteers here and make sure everyone has life jackets and first aid supplies." Emma nodded, already mobilizing a small group to prepare equipment. Jake, though shaken, offered to help distribute supplies and assist survivors. Rex settled at Marcus's feet, alert and watchful, his presence a steady comfort amid the chaos. Marcus's military experience came to the forefront as he outlined the rescue plan. "We'll work in pairs, covering sectors systematically. Keep an eye out for anyone signaling for help. The storm might be masking cries or calls." He paused, scanning the faces before him. "We can't afford mistakes. The floodwaters are unpredictable, and the storm could worsen." A volunteer raised a hand hesitantly. "What about the bridge over Mill Creek? It's partially collapsed, and several homes downstream are still cut off." Marcus's jaw tightened. "That area is critical. We'll send a specialized team with ropes and flotation devices. Safety is paramount. No one goes in without backup." His voice was steady but carried the weight of command. Years of deployments had honed his ability to remain calm in the face of chaos, to make decisions that balanced urgency with caution. The stakes were high, but the plan was clear. Outside, the storm continued its relentless assault. Lightning flashed, illuminating the flooded streets in stark, fleeting bursts. Thunder rolled like distant artillery, a reminder that nature's power was both majestic and merciless. Marcus took a moment to assess Rex, who was scanning the room with keen eyes. The dog's instincts had guided them through the initial rescues, and Marcus trusted that Rex could sense dangers or survivors hidden beneath the storm's veil. "You ready, boy?" he asked softly, kneeling to ruffle the dog's wet fur. Rex responded with a low bark, tail wagging tentatively. The community center buzzed with a mix of fear and determination as volunteers prepared to head back into the storm. Marcus gathered his gear, checking radios, life vests, and medical kits. Emma approached, her expression resolute. "We've got teams ready to move out. The volunteers are organized and motivated." Marcus nodded. "Good. We'll split up to cover more ground. Rex and I will take the western sector near the old harbor. It's prone to flooding and has several isolated homes." Emma's gaze flickered toward the storm-lashed windows. "Be careful. The weather's unpredictable." "We'll be fine," Marcus replied, though the uncertainty gnawed at him. As the teams dispersed into the tempest, Marcus felt the familiar surge of adrenaline mingled with responsibility. This was no longer just a search for Rex or a handful of survivors. It was a coordinated effort to save an entire community from the storm's wrath. The rain pounded relentlessly as Marcus and Rex moved through the flooded streets, the dog's nose close to the ground, ears twitching at every sound. The water was cold and unforgiving, swirling around their legs as they navigated debris-strewn paths. Marcus's eyes scanned for any sign of life, a flicker of movement, a faint cry, anything to guide their efforts. Hours stretched on, the storm's roar a constant backdrop to their mission. Marcus relayed updates via radio, coordinating with other teams and adjusting plans as new information came in. The floodwaters had claimed roads and bridges, forcing detours and complicating rescues. At one point, Rex suddenly halted, muscles tensing as he caught a scent carried on the wind. Marcus followed the dog's gaze to a partially submerged porch where a faint figure struggled against the water's pull. Without hesitation, Marcus waded into the cold depths, reaching the woman clinging to a railing. "I'm here," he assured her, steadying her as Rex barked encouragement. Together, they made their way back to higher ground, where Emma and other volunteers awaited with blankets and warmth. As dawn began to break, the storm showed signs of easing, though the floodwaters remained high. Marcus stood on a flooded street, watching as rescue efforts continued with tireless determination. The community was battered but not broken, united by a shared will to survive. Rex nudged his hand, a reminder of the bond that had guided them through the darkest hours. Marcus took a deep breath, the cold air filling his lungs. The night had tested them all, but with teamwork, courage, and the unyielding loyalty of a dog who never lost instinct or heart, they had made a difference. There was still work to do, but for now, hope flickered amid the storm's aftermath. Marcus's boots splashed through the swollen streets of Seabrook, water swirling around his calves as he pressed forward into the heart of the flooded district. The storm's roar had softened to a distant rumble, but the rain still fell in relentless sheets, blurring the edges of the battered town. Each breath he drew was sharp and cold, his body pushed to the limits by hours of rescue efforts and the unforgiving chill. Rex moved ahead with purpose, nose to the ground, muscles coiled and ready. The dog's instincts had guided them through the storm's chaos, leading to trapped families and stranded survivors. But now, as the floodwaters lapped hungrily at the crumbling foundations of abandoned buildings, Marcus knew their most critical challenge lay ahead. They approached the flooded cave system nestled beneath the cliffs on Seabrook's outskirts. A labyrinth of twisting tunnels carved over centuries by the relentless ocean. Normally a place of quiet mystery, it was now a perilous refuge for those caught by the storm's fury. Reports had come in of several townspeople trapped inside, unable to escape the rising waters and treacherous terrain. The cave's entrance yawned before them, partially submerged beneath the murky floodwaters that churned like a restless beast. Marcus tightened his grip on Rex's leash, the dog's body tense with anticipation. "Ready, boy?" he whispered, voice barely audible over the wind's mournful howl. Rex responded with a low growl, tail stiff, eyes gleaming with sharp intelligence. Together, they plunged into the icy water, the current tugging at their legs as they waded deeper into the cave's mouth. The darkness swallowed them whole, the beam of Marcus's flashlight cutting a narrow path through the stern of the blackness. Inside, the air was thick and damp, heavy with the scent of earth and salt. The sound of rushing water echoed through the tunnels, a constant reminder of the danger lurking beyond the light. Marcus's heart beat steadily, trained to remain calm even as adrenaline surged. They moved cautiously, every step calculated to avoid slippery rocks and submerged hazards. Rex's keen senses picked out faint sounds, a cry, a splash, the murmur of voices carried on the damp air. The dog's nose twitched as he led Marcus deeper into the labyrinth, navigating by instinct and experience. Suddenly, a faint light flickered ahead, a flashlight beam held by someone trapped within the cave's flooded chambers. Marcus quickened his pace, calling out softly, "We're here to help. Hold on." From the shadows emerged a group of 5, men, women, and children, soaked and shivering, but alive. Their faces reflected a mixture of fear and relief as they clustered together, clinging to rocks and each other. One woman's voice trembled. "Thank God you found us. The water keeps rising." Marcus scanned them quickly, assessing injuries and exhaustion. "We're getting you out," he assured them. He signaled to Rex, who moved among the group, offering comforting presence and steady reassurance. The rescue was delicate. The cave's passages were narrow, some completely submerged, forcing Marcus to guide the group carefully through waist-deep water and around jagged rocks. The rising floodwaters added urgency. Time was slipping away with every passing minute. Marcus took the lead, using ropes and handholds to steady the group as they navigated treacherous sections. Rex stayed close, alert for any hidden dangers or signs of weakness in those they were saving. The journey was grueling. Cold seeped into every bone, muscles ached from the strain, and the darkness pressed in like a living thing. But hope propelled them forward, the promise of safety beyond and the cave's mouth. At one narrow choke point, Marcus paused to help a young boy whose legs trembled with exhaustion. "Almost there," he said gently, lifting the boy's weight as Rex nuzzled his hand. The bond between man, dog, and rescued was palpable, a testament to trust and courage in the face of adversity. Finally, they emerged into the storm's fading light, gasping for fresh air as the floodwaters rushed behind them. Rescue teams waited beyond the cave's mouth, ready to ferry survivors to safety and warmth. As they were led away, Marcus felt a surge of relief and pride. Rex, though wet and tired, wagged his tail with quiet satisfaction, the dog's instincts having once again guided them through peril to salvation. The cave rescue marked a turning point in the storm's unfolding saga, a dramatic testament to the strength found in unity, trust, and the fierce loyalty between a man and his dog. As dawn began to break over Seabrook, casting pale light on the battered town, Marcus stood with Rex by his side, knowing the worst was behind them, but the journey toward recovery had only just begun. The first light of dawn bled slowly across the battered town of Seabrook, casting a pale glow on streets still slick with rain and littered with debris. The storm had finally begun to ease, but its aftermath lingered in every corner. The swollen rivers, the shattered homes, the weary faces of those who had survived the night. Amid the quiet, Marcus stood with Rex at the edge of the town's makeshift triage center, watching as survivors were tended to and emergency crews worked tirelessly to restore order. Rex, still damp from hours spent navigating floodwaters and cave tunnels, rested at Marcus's feet, eyes bright but alert. The dog's tail wagged slowly, a silent acknowledgement of a mission well done. Marcus reached down, ruffling the thick fur along Rex's neck, feeling the steady warmth beneath his fingers, a reminder of the unbreakable bond that had carried them through the storm's darkest hours. The triage center buzzed with activity. Volunteers handed out blankets and hot drinks, medics moved from patient to patient, and local officials coordinated relief efforts. Each rescued soul was a testament to the resilience and courage that had defined the community's response. Marcus's military training had guided him through countless crises. But here, in this fragile town, battered by nature's fury, he felt a profound connection to the lives they had saved. Emma approached, her face tired but radiant with relief. "You did good, Marcus. We all did." Her voice was steady, carrying the unspoken weight of shared hardship. Marcus nodded, eyes scanning the crowd. "We couldn't have done it without Rex. He led us every step of the way." Emma smiled, kneeling to scratch behind the dog's ears. "He's a hero, no doubt." As the day unfolded, Marcus and Rex moved among the survivors, offering quiet comfort and support. The dog's presence was a balm to those shaken by trauma, a living symbol of loyalty and hope amid the wreckage. Children reached out to stroke his fur, their smiles momentarily pushing back the shadows of fear. Yet beneath the relief, Marcus sensed the storm's full impact was still unfolding. Homes were lost, infrastructure damaged, and the road to recovery would be long and arduous. The community spirit was strong, but the scars ran deep. Later, as Marcus helped distribute supplies near the town hall, he was approached by a local officer, Lieutenant Sarah Briggs, her expression grave. "Marcus, we've found something troubling." She handed him a small, water-damaged folder containing photos and reports. Evidence of structural damage to the town's levee system, critical to preventing future floods. Marcus's brow furrowed as he reviewed the documents. "This wasn't just the storm," he said quietly. "Some of this damage looks old, neglected maintenance, maybe even intentional." Sarah nodded. "We're launching an investigation. The town's safety depends on it." The revelation cast a new light on the disaster, a reminder that while nature was fierce, human actions or inactions could deepen its wounds. Marcus felt a surge of determination. He'd fought battles against human threats before. Now, he would stand with Seabrook against the unseen dangers within. As evening fell, Marcus found a quiet moment on a ridge overlooking the town. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Beside him, Rex sat silently, tail thumping against the dry earth. Marcus reflected on the journey. From the first frantic search through rain-soaked streets to the daring cave rescue and the countless lives saved. The storm had tested them all, but it had also forged bonds that would endure. With Rex by his side, Marcus knew they were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The road to healing would be long, but together, they would face it with courage, loyalty, and unwavering resolve. Weeks had passed since the storm's devastating assault on Seabrook, and the town was slowly emerging from the shadows of disaster. The battered streets were cleared, homes patched, and the community's spirit rekindled by shared resilience. Amid this fragile rebirth, Marcus stood on a ridge overlooking the town, the evening sun casting long shadows over the rooftops and shimmering waters. Beside him, Rex sat alert, eyes steady and proud, a symbol of the journey they had endured together. The bond between Marcus and Rex had deepened beyond words, forged in the crucible of storm and survival. Where once Marcus sought only refuge in Seabrook's quiet, he had found purpose, a mission extending beyond himself. Rex's instinctual heroism had been a beacon during the darkest hours, guiding them through flooded streets, treacherous caves, and the desperate cries of those in need. Behind them, the town was alive with renewed hope. Volunteers worked tirelessly to rebuild, neighbors leaned on each other, and the scars left by the floodwaters began to fade beneath fresh paint and repaired foundations. The community's strength was a testament to the courage Marcus had witnessed firsthand, a living proof that even amid devastation, life could bloom anew. At the town center, Lieutenant Sarah Briggs had spearheaded efforts to repair and reinforce the levee system, ensuring Seabrook's safety against future storms. Her investigation uncovered negligence and corruption in the maintenance of critical infrastructure, leading to accountability and reforms that promised a safer tomorrow. Marcus often joined Sarah and Emma, the local volunteer who had become a steadfast ally, working together to support the town's recovery. Their shared experiences had forged an unbreakable bond, a family born not of blood, but of loyalty, trust, and shared purpose. One afternoon, as Marcus and Rex patrolled the newly restored harbor, children gathered to play near the docks, their laughter ringing clear and bright. Marcus watched as Rex approached a small boy who extended a tentative hand. The dog lowered his head, allowing the child to stroke his fur, a moment of pure connection that embodied the healing taking root in Seabrook. Marcus smiled, a quiet satisfaction settling over him. The storm had tested them all, pushing limits and exposing vulnerabilities, but it had also revealed the strength of human spirit and the power of unwavering loyalty. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the sky in hues of amber and rose, Marcus knelt beside Rex, voice soft but resolute. "We did good, boy. Together, we made a difference." Rex's tail thumped against the wooden pier, a steady heartbeat in the calm evening air. The journey from violence and chaos to justice and peace was far from over. But in this moment, Marcus knew they had forged something enduring, a testament to courage, resilience, and the unbreakable bond between a man and his dog. And as the stars began to twinkle overhead, the town of Seabrook stood united, ready to face whatever the future held, guided by the light of hope and the promise of new beginnings.